Okay, so we should have a PowerPoint, the man born blind. I wonder if you are scared of the dark. When I was a small child, I was terrified of the dark and the monsters which I was convinced were lurking under my bed. I never dared put my arm down down the side of my bed because I was afraid of what was under there. I think I'd been watching too much Doctor Who. Of course, darkness can hide dangers. I remember as a teenager running round the streets in my close in the dark, and it was a path that I knew very well. But what I didn't know was that some workmen had left an uncovered manhole unattended. And in the dark, I didn't see it, and I tripped up badly, but it could have been a lot worse. I could have fallen down the manhole. Often we take our sight for granted, but what a wonderful gift it is. It can keep us safe. It can show us so many sights of incredible beauty and interest. But the man born blind had never seen any of these things until he met Jesus. In our passage this morning, Jesus claims to be the light of the world. Verse 5, while I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Actually, he's picking up on something that he'd already said in chapter 8, verse 12. When Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Jesus is claiming to be the true light of the world, the light which opens people's eyes, giving spiritual sight and guiding them into the truth about themselves and God. And we see a powerful picture of that in this morning's story. The man born blind had never been able to see. He didn't know what it was like to see. But Jesus stopped and noticed him. While his disciples speculated about why he was born blind, Jesus made a mud paste, smeared it on the man's eyes, and told him to go and wash. And amazingly, when the blind man obeyed Jesus, he came back seeing. What a miracle. Just imagine how this man's whole life was transformed. A whole new world opened up to him. No longer sitting in darkness, but striding confidently in the light. I once was blind, but now I see. What a wonderful illustration of Jesus' power to change lives. We may be sitting in darkness. We may not even know that we are spiritually blind. But when Jesus comes, he changes our reality forever. He cares about us just as he did for the man born blind. And when we respond to his call with the obedience of faith, our eyes are opened and the world will never be the same again. I once was blind, but now I see. What a miracle. That's the transforming encounter which can bring light into the darkest heart and hope into the darkest situation. Jesus Christ, the light of the world, is the ultimate answer to the darkness of our nation and to every soul that cries out in the darkness of despair. So that's the miracle. But now let's look at how his family and neighbours responded. The change was so amazing that those who knew him couldn't believe it was him. And look how this man grows in confidence as he witnesses to the great reality which has transformed his life. The Pharisees don't want to believe what has happened. But the man born blind is a wonderful example of a faithful witness and a faith that grows progressively. He may start off having little understanding of the gospel, but he has an open mind and heart. And he stands firm on the one thing he does know. I was blind, but now I see. He may not know all the answers, but he does know his life has been changed forever. And we can be the same. We may not know the answer to every question that friends and family throw at us, but we know the reality that we're different because of Jesus in our lives. And in that certainty, we can stand firm. Just look how this poor, uneducated beggar gets the better of these learned Pharisees by his steadfast testimony to the reality of what Jesus has done for him. And as he stands firm against opposition, he begins to grow in his faith. At first, he only knows his healer as the man they call Jesus. Later, when they argue about whether Jesus is a sinner, he calls him a prophet. When they keep on questioning him, he identifies himself with Jesus as a disciple. In answering their scorn, he recognizes Jesus as a man from God. And when he's thrown out of the community for his testimony, Jesus comes and finds him and reveals himself as the Son of Man and Lord. First, God touches his life, delivering him from darkness, and we see him responding with a heart full of joy and worship. Verse 38. Then the man said, "Lord, I believe," and he worshipped him. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. When he comes into our lives, he changes them forever. Nothing will ever be the same again. Something amazing has happened in our lives, and we cannot deny it, however much people around us might want us to. We may not know all the answers, but we know that God is real and that he's touched our lives. So we ought to shine out like those lighthouses. Lighthouses shining as a beacon, pointing to the light that we've received from Jesus. One thing I do know, I once was blind, but now I see. That's the testimony of the man born blind, and it could be our testimony also. But there's another reality in this story. The Pharisees didn't want to believe in Jesus, the light of the world. They did everything to shut out the light. This man is not from God, they say, despite all the evidence to the contrary. We know that this man is a sinner, they said of Jesus. Did they? Was there ever a more sinless life lived on earth than that of Jesus? And verse 22 says, already they had decided that anyone who had acknowledged that Jesus was the Messiah would be put out of the synagogue. Sounds like a case of, my mind's made up, don't confuse me with the facts. As for this fellow, we don't even know where he comes from. And we don't want to know either, they might have said. Their minds are completely closed against Jesus. He threatens their world, and they don't want to hear any more. And for this reason, Jesus described them as spiritually blind. They were wearing spiritual dark glasses. They claimed to be able to see, like Max in the puppet sketch, but they were wearing spiritual dark glasses. So this morning I want to say, don't be like the Pharisees. Don't close your eyes to the light of Christ. Excuse me. Don't close your mind like the Pharisees. But open up your heart like the man born blind. Open your heart and mind to receive the light of Christ by faith. Just like the man born blind, you can say, Lord, I believe. And when you do, he's promised never to leave you in darkness again. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Let his light penetrate your soul and change your heart. And if you know him, let that love light blaze abroad. Again, like our lighthouses, let's be lighthouses for Christ. Let that love light blaze abroad, showing other people where that light may be found. Don't forget to worship him and to bear witness to that light in your life. There may be many things we don't know, but one thing I do know: I was blind, but now I see. I pray that everyone here will come to know the joy of that great truth. Lord, I believe. Amen.